Imagine lying in bed in the dark. You hear a clicking sound coming from your closet. Annoyed, you yell at your older brother to stop trying to scare you. But then, your bedroom door swings open. The hallway light spills in, and your mom, pale, whispers, "Your brother isn't home." Internet horror stories like this often feel like a chaotic spiral into a nightmare. In reality, that sense of escalating dread is a structured sequence designed to manipulate our perception of safety. We can see these mechanics at work by looking at two very different scenarios: a realistic account of a stalker on a desert highway, and a paranormal encounter with something hiding under a childhood bed. Despite their different subjects, both stories follow an identical sequence of psychological triggers. By breaking down how these narratives are built, we can see the specific moments that trigger a fear response. Looking at horror this way changes the experience. You start to see the gears turning behind the scenes of every scare. This timeline represents the emotional arc of a scare, beginning with step 1, false security. It establishes a stable baseline of normalcy. In the desert story, the narrator sleeps in their car during a solo road trip, feeling entirely free and safe under the stars. In the bedroom story, the narrator is simply annoyed by a sibling's familiar prank. In both cases, the protagonist feels they are in a controlled, safe environment. Then the data line begins to fluctuate. This is step 2, escalation, where a subtle anomaly enters that safe environment. At exactly 2 a.m., the driver wakes up and hears someone slowly trying the outside door handles of the car. In the bedroom, the rhythmic clicking continues, followed by the closet door slowly creaking open. These early signs aren't intended to cause immediate panic. Instead, they create a state of ambiguity that keeps the protagonist and the viewer engaged without triggering a flight response too early. Following the escalation, the timeline moves to step 3, the dismissal. On this chart, the perceived threat level drops back to 0 because the protagonist finds a way to rationalize the danger. The driver decides the person at the door is just a confused traveler looking for their own vehicle in the dark. In the bedroom, the mother provides the rationalization. She turns on the lights, checks the closet and under the bed, and reassures the child that the room is empty. Once that sense of safety is restored, the story moves to step 4, the climax. The data lines spike upward as the safe space is physically breached. The driver sees a man with a deranged smile pressing his face to the car window, tapping a heavy rock against the glass. In the bedroom, the lights go out and the clicking resumes from inside the mattress. A distorted voice mimicking the brother whispers, "She didn't look close enough." The scene ends with physical contact, a long, cold hand reaching from under the bed to grab the narrator's ankle. The severity of this impact is tied to the drop in tension from the previous step. By convincing the audience they are safe, the story creates a larger distance for the final scare to travel. Comparing these stories shows that the physical threats, the rock or the hand, rely on the psychological groundwork laid by the dismissal. The tension is built in the moments where we try to explain the danger away. This cognitive feedback loop shows how we process unknown data. When faced with something frightening, our brains attempt to route that information into a normal category. It's a natural coping mechanism. We blame a lost traveler or an annoying sibling because accepting a predator requires stress that the brain tries to avoid. These stories utilize that habit of normalization. The horror reaches its peak when the logic we used to feel safe shatters and the actual threat can no longer be ignored. The next time you hear a tap on the glass or a click in the dark, you might find yourself looking for a logical explanation. That's because the most unsettling part of a story isn't the moment the monster appears. It's the realization of how easily we convinced ourselves it wasn't there in the first place.